Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the EuroShow.
Yay, Euro trash.
We are the show that's striving to be your source for game industry news and how it relates to CCP and Eve Online. So, just a bit of a sort of like a goal setting at the start of the show.
Yeah, we're trying to filter all the not interesting news for you people, so you can only stay on this channel.
Exactly. So as you heard, I have a distinguished guest and TIS's brand manager, Caleb Ariana here.
Hello, people.
And of course, I am McLeod. I am as kind of recently I've climbed the corporate steps, the corporate ladder to become chief of production here at Talking Stations. So that is my new title. That is my new sort of set of responsibilities, as it were. We have a fairly cool show today. We weren't here actually on, I think it was Friday, because on Friday a sort of literal bombshell hit EVE Online, and it was only prudent at the time for for the entirety, pretty much the entirety of the day, to be given over to Matterall and to in-game news, basically relating to the industry changes that happened for EVE Online. So that is the reason why we weren't here on Friday. How did you feel about that?
And that went on for the entirety of the weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, to be completely honest. So what do we have for you this week? Well, we have for you. Shall we just jump into the first set of news?
Yeah, jump in. Let's get the show going.
Okay, so first set of news today. Or let's start off with the topic at the start of the show. DOTA 2. I don't know if you've seen this. I think it happened sort of between last Tuesday and this Tuesday, but basically there was a sort of a news article that hit that Dota 2's new player experience is basically being massively improved. Obviously, we can use this as a nice kind of compare and contrast, because CCP has been on a drive for, God, how long has it been now? Like
it's over more than 2 years.
Over 2 years
I think it's more than 2 years, yes. Because I think we've forgotten everything time-wise because of all this war stuff and quarantine. So our time experience is like completely dilated. But yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a little bit more than 2 years ago that they said that they were going to dedicate. I think the joke was that they said something crazy like, did they say 90% of the dev hours or something like that? And the entire player base of EVE Online just exploded, going, what are you thinking? You can't do that. That is just not viable.
I know, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, was it 2 years ago? Or is it the case of, like, I just consider 2020 as being, like, just 2 years in general. 2 years worth of horribleness, like, rolled into one. But, I mean...
And I think it's actually worse than that, because I think they started this whole campaign. I think that's all the way back to like 15, 16, if I'm not mistaken, when all the stuff that the CCP Ghost was starting, when the new player experience really got a lot of focus, and it got its first revamp. I think that was 15 or 16, when everyone had to, well, all of us in the media had to re-roll characters and try it out and test it, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that far back. But and of course, it's always a good thing when CCP tries to freshen up some of the old content and put some nice new rails on the game. But I honestly think that the direction is a little bit off. I think the focus is wrong. It still feels like they are trying to trick kids into a minefield, and I just think they're doing it wrong. I think it's not the it's not a new player experience in the form of the quest lines and stuff that you are supposed to do. Of course, that helps, but the environment that they're thrown into is just as harsh, if not worse, than it was, say, 10 years ago. So I think it's completely a mess because they're trying to do the wrong type of onboarding. You need to make the nursery better.
Yeah, exactly. And if, I mean, one of the, like, if we're talking about new player experience, like, it was brought up like quite a few times by Hilmar and by everyone on basically that was working on and presenting the information to the players about the new player experience and the work that they were doing on the new player experience. Like they referenced this graph. Just put it up on here, like this particular graph, which was a player created graph that was always meant to sort of like, it was meant to be a humor. It was and is a humorous kind of like jab at CCP, at making the game a bit too difficult, kind of thing.
Wow.
And obviously,
The
you see
learning clip
the
is a mythology right now, right? It's
exactly.
epic. It's been used since, I think this is actually all the way back to 4 or 5, which it's something crazy like that. This is very, very old.
I mean, you know it's old. You know it's old when like the line or the learning cliff has been labeled as Eve the Second Genesis. Like we're not even at, I mean, Second Genesis. When is like which expansion was that? Like I don't think we were even at Red Moon Rising at that particular point.
Oh my god, I have to check now because I don't actually remember.
Yeah. I know, right? It's pretty crazy. But yeah, like when CCP said that they were on this path to sort of deal with new player experience, they were basically trying to deal with sort of the kind of this, which a bit of a fallacy, but even so, EVE Online is still a pretty difficult game for well, not still, but like at the time when they started this work was very much a hard game to get into, and to be truthful, I think I tried it maybe 2 or 3 times before I really got it. Like there's a point at which you kind of like it, just you get it, right?
Funny enough, Second Genesis is actually, Google tells me it's only the title of the collectible card game, which is kind of funny because
that's interesting.
When I looked at it, it's not an expansion name and it's not like a working title of the game. So it is actually something used for, I think, only the card game. So I think it's mislabeled, which is kind of weird.
It's kind of strange.
Anyways, but the point is that the whole thing with the learning cliff and entry into Eve and that whole discussion, and then recently, I think, to my personal position on this is that CCP has been trying to whitewash its reputation. I think that's a mistake. I like some of the stuff that CCP Ghost, as I mentioned, has been doing. It's very sociology, anthropology-like view on EVE Online. I just think that his scientific method is a little bit questionable because his argument is that people that get killed in Eve are the ones that get onboarded and stay and play the game. It's just a fallacy of sampling. It's a bit like saying the resilience of the European population when it comes to the plague is high. Yeah, because we've had it like 4 or 5 times, and half of our population has been completely killed off by it, right? So yeah, the ones that are left are resilient. It's called resistance. It's basically what we were hoping we could get from this quarantine and COVID stuff. But again, it doesn't really apply. If you're sampling and asking questions to the player base, even if you're asking the ones when they leave, the people that are going to reply are already a set segment of your sample base. So you're only going to get the replies that you expect. So it's basically almost cherry picking the data points. You're not going to get any answers from the people that left the game because they didn't want to play it.
Sorry about that. I was just I was fixing my microphone there for a minute. It's being a little bit awkward and annoying. Hopefully, it's kind of a little bit fixed and there's less background kind of noise going on. But anyway,
well, it's back to what's being said in chat, right? It is about how to figure out how to build the nursery. In the old
that's
right?
That's kind of an interesting thing. Like
the whole of HiSec was supposed to be that.
Yeah. Like so the interesting thing is like, and I just wanted to kind of like bring ourselves back to like the Eurogamer article, because like kind of what Valve is doing with Dota 2 at least is they've kind of set up they have these like player sort of nurseries kind of thing, starter areas essentially, right? And it's essentially they're trying to sort of create or sort of better sort of generate a good learning environment in these kind of areas and basically stop veteran players from being able to get inside there and start causing mischief with like new accounts essentially. So like in Dota 2 essentially you would have veteran players creating new accounts to get in and to basically go and screw around with new players. These are called, at least in Dota 2 sort of terms, they're called Smurf accounts, as it were. That's where the terminology comes from.
Yeah.
But obviously Eve takes it in a bit of a different way. We have like starter systems where new players generally tend to start in, but like they're not segregated or like like from the Eve universe, New Eden in general. So.
And again, back if I can take us back in history just for a second here, because
Go for it. Yeah.
A lot of people forget that the whole intention with HiSec from conception of the game was that it was supposed to be that when it says green zone, this is essentially a nursery area. This is like you should not be able to do something. This is why we had Concord, and of course Concord then. The player base figured out how to game Concord and actually tank it and then kill hundreds of players on a gate. This is the old zombie tanking of Concord, which was famous, right? So we just started gaming these things, and then we started calculating things like the response time of how long we could actually get away with shooting someone. It's just we kept gaming this thing to the point where now ganking was a feature. It's like, now this is how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to be killed all the time, everywhere, on stations, tanking gate guns and all these things. And it's like, that's not really what the idea was
the original
about the game.
Yeah, the original like vision of EVE Online was not meant to be like that.
Exactly, and what happened is that if you think about it a little bit and you look at the growth curve, I know that people will say, oh, that's not why it happened, but I'm insisting that this is actually directly correlated, that you had this growth, right?
Where's your
because
evidence?
people anyway, came in and tried the game and actually liked it, but the more that you scared them away, you started segregating the player base, and then what you see is that the people that are in EVE Online and stayed in EVE Online, exactly like I said with the ghost data, it's a selection machine, right? The people that stay are the people that are willing to play this kind of game. Everyone else just leaves eventually, right?
Yeah, but I think there's situations in sort of EVE's sort of continual development history where kind of players have filled the gaps, left by CCP in terms of creating player services, right? Whether they're in-game or out of game. And every so often, CCP will come in and create a service or change a service, and it kind of wipes out, those areas, those situations, those opportunities for players. I mean, I've seen it. Like there was when they brought out Citadels and basically said that, like, oh, you don't need standings or anything like that to put down Citadels in HiSec. Like, I know for a fact, because I used a service to basically get a player in station or pos down in HiSec, that there were people out there that specifically catered for people like me who didn't have the standings to put down structures in HiSec, and they made money out of it. They made their living out, like their in-game living out of it. And in one foul swoop, like CCP came in and just, nuked their kind of like their profit making, their sort of kind of like Eve business to some degree, right?
They did. They killed the business. They've killed businesses since day one. They've killed my business more than once, but that will take us down a history rabbit hole that we cannot cover today. But we recently had one guy show up again in EVE Online and drop in on us on TIS, Nico Lorenzo, who he actually created Pro Synergy. And a lot of his work is also kind of not valued the same way. So they almost killed his business model as well. And this has just been happening since the early days of the game. Every time we find a way to play the game, if it's a little bit, well, call it broken or missing some things, then CCP ends up completely undermining the business model that you're running on, because you're usually doing a service that is needed because the game does not have it. Same like Cribber left the game when structures made him completely obsolete, right? There's no need for Cribber to do third-party servicing and trading of supers and titans if you can just hand them over in the Citadel, right? So that's another example of mechanics actually making someone's livelihood completely worthless.
Yeah, very true. There's actually there's a few interesting things that I think like CCP could actually could see in this this stuff that's happening in Dota 2, though, that might be kind of interesting, because it's something that I think that a lot of the community has kind of like been yelling at CCP for quite some time to sort of to promote and to kind of to do, and all fair and well, CCP's, when it comes to community kind of integration, when it comes to the new NPE or new player experience, like they're always very hesitant at it, because mainly because of all of the sort of partisanship that happens inside of EVE Online and the rivalries and all that. Like they don't want to actually be seen as to promoting any one particular kind of group over another.
I just think that it's a little bit of a mistake to not try to fight for a development direction that can at least help these people in the early days. This is back to they I think they've said that it's the first 60 days that they want to focus on, which is fine. But how do you make sure that these people do not have horrible experiences too early in the game? And maybe it's not even just the first 60 days, because I keep joking with, well, if you're less than 2 years old in EVE Online, you're still a summer child. You're still completely ignorant about 90% of what goes on in this game, right? And that's not even arrogance. That's just fact.
Yeah, that's very true. So I just want to pull a few things from this this particular article, which seemed kind of quite interesting. I think it's a good jumping point for talking about how CCP sort of looks at this in that regard. So this is with regarding to like helping new players like progress in the game, but just in a more holistic sort of way. But they've added this kind of this sort of system, which they sort of call as like a flexible coaching system. And they say that it will allow new players to ask for guidance from experienced players, even in the middle of like matches and that kind of thing, which is kind of sort of an interesting take on it. I'm not entirely certain how it functions inside of the game, as it were, but basically leveraging, instead of leveraging like sort of their own developed guides, they're actually sort of like connecting new players with experienced players in a one-to-one kind of basis.
And this ties into Eve,
almost mentoring.
And interestingly enough, many of the things in Eve have tried similar things, and we have the newbie channel, we have the help channel early on, and that you lose access to later, and then you have the NPC Corp channel, and you have access to something like, well, once someone tells you, you have access to things like Eve University, and you can actually start moving along to the next natural progression. But all these systems in Eve Online is so horribly antiquated, and how it was done more than 10 years ago. And I still think that they are not focused enough on how to put the players on a track to new players, old players or old player organizations that will help them grow. And I am a big fan of things like Eve University and also of the feeder corps. The problem with the feeder corps is that once you get on the feeder corps track, you skip at least what I would say 6 to 9 months of slow growth, nurtured gameplay. You
Yeah.
completely skip it and you will not really get access to it again. And if you become massively ingrained in nullsec and nullsec life, you will never experience the rest of the universe until someone introduces you to it.
Very true, yeah. One of the other interesting things as well that's going on with Dota 2 in terms of, and it's not just new player experience, like this also encompasses returning players as well. So returning veterans, or, you know, whether you're, you know, you've spent a long time in the game and you're coming back, or whether you're sort of, you know, you've only sort of trialed a little bit. But like essentially what they're doing is like they new player or existing players coming back that have spent a long time away from the game apparently go into some sort of special calibration mode. It takes into account basically how long they've been absent, you know, what changes have happened in the game since that time, and essentially it kind of tailors the new player, or not the new player, but basically the PvE experience, I think, and matchmaking, I believe, you know, to provide a more gentle curve back to, you know, back to allow to basically to allow the players to understand you know, all the new additions to the game, all the changes to the game and stuff like that. Obviously, when it comes to Eve, something like that will be a little bit difficult, because you have situations where, you know, people may try and, you know, figure out how the system works to game the system to make, like, say, PvE easier, or, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to, you know, use that system to change PvP engagements, right? Like, you know, open world PvP engagements in Eve.
Yeah, and funny enough, this is not just Dota that is on this path, right?
No.
Well, or at least not just this piece of news. There's two other things that are completely related to it that we didn't want to dig into too deep, but there's actually a similar article about what League of Legends is doing right now over on in Rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also got the criminal flag, or ethically questionable character flagging, where people that are cheaters or uses hacks and stuff like that will actually not be paired up with the new players or the innocent, which is, again, it's all the same trend I'm seeing. I'm seeing very strong focus from old games to figure out how to retain new players. And what I'm not seeing is CCP doing this. I'm seeing them trying to develop these weird tutorial stuff, and but not about how to make it fun for new players to play for the first 2 months, 3 months. And I think that's really where the other game development studios have figured out what the problem is. The problem is, how do you feel about entering this weird environment of these crazy people, whether it's Dota players, League of Legends players, whatever it is. Hell, it's the same in Albion, where you also get grief ganked like crazy with invisible ninjas dropping in on you and just insta killing you. It's like, this is the FPS legacy, right? This is
Yeah.
because so many gamers today play very competitive shooters, where the main goal is to just get frags and kill someone. And don't get me wrong, I have huge respect for people that play those games. They're amazing and they're fun games. And I know that McLeod here is a massive fan, and I've seen him play and been laughing at it. But the point is, these games are cool. It's just, I don't think the same attitude should necessarily be accepted in other types of games, because I don't think it belongs there.
Yeah, you have a good point there. But anyway, we should probably leave that there. Like I think we've kind of gone a little bit over time in that regard for this
Yeah, we
particular one.
have.
So we should probably move on. But before that, we should probably get to doing a few adverts in actual fact. So we'll be back after this or these. Welcome back, guys. Our second part of the show revolves around a little thing that dropped on PC Gamer, which seems completely ridiculous in actual fact. And it is an article, and I'll just flip to it here. The EU wants 20,000 GPUs to run a simulated digital twin of Earth. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb, but isn't there sort of a bit of an issue at the moment, you know, in recent months, recent years, regarding GPUs, you know, just general sort of stock levels and such?
What? Are you saying we can get GPUs? I heard that we should just give up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I was very much under the impression that we should just give up. There is literally no GPUs available. In actual fact, I saw an article kind of recently which said that yes, the age of getting all-in-one builds without GPUs is here. So, like, you know.
Well, I still keep blaming the crypto boys, because apparently there is no GPUs left for any gamers out there. But I have actually looked at the numbers, and Dr. Spod, our fact finder on TIS, corrected me and said, no, Caleb, that's not why. It's actually the fact that a lot of gamers have been buying GPUs. Like a lot, like 50% more than normal.
Yeah, but there's also another aspect of you know, the recent sort of sales of GPUs to consider, and that's kind of the cryptocurrency sort of fluctuation, or that lack thereof. Like, it's kind of just been going up and up and up, and so people have been purchasing GPUs. Scalpers have been, well, I wouldn't say scalpers, but, like, you know, I imagine there's probably almost one and the same to some degree. Like, scalpers and crypto miners have been buying the living hell out of GPUs, like, lately, and people have gotten really, really aggravated, like, you know,
but it's
at not being able to get it.
It's back to what you told me earlier, right? Because anyone that's looking at the stream with our cameras can see that my quality is way worse than Mac's, right? Even webcams kind of ran out during all this COVID stuff, right?
Well, yeah, webcams ran out definitely with the COVID stuff. Like, and I kind of saw it coming. Obviously, I had the camera that I have, like, you know, way before 2020, but you know, 2020 rolled around. You know, the situation around the world kind of developed as it did, and a lot of people, including, well, it was a lot of people. Firstly, it was, you know, all the news organizations and the presenters of news, you know, at the news organizations and stuff, were like, oh, I have to, like, you know, I have to put together you know, a recording or a broadcasting suite in my house, and I need this, that, and the other. And so there, you know, there was increase in stock there. But then obviously everyone else was like, well, I want to be able to Skype, you know, Skype and Zoom and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, be able to see people, you know, people to see me, and me to be able to see other people. And so, you know, so started the mass, you know, buying of, you know, various different webcams and stuff. So.
And I'm just going to say now, or predict now, I don't think anyone out there should expect this to get better. Because if I'm not mistaken, this recent GPU series, right? It's
the 30
a lot more. It's
series.
a lot more expensive relatively than prior generations.
I mean, it's been kind of going up in sort of in the same manner as like phones, right? Like you used to not have to. You used to not spend, you know, 1,500 on a phone, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, the price point is just rising with the consumption level and willingness to actually pay for these things. So it's relatively more expensive than they were in the past. It's relatively more interesting to gamers, and more gamers are coming into the generations than ever before, right? It's becoming non-stigmatized to actually be a gamer. So all the demand is just going crazy. And if you then consider the fact that because of the price point, that means that the early adopters, that means first part of the life cycle of a product, is actually relatively smaller to the bumps after that. So when you reach phase 2 and 3, the demand is going to be massively greater. This is just take someone like myself. I call myself a gamer, but I'm a little bit of a miser when it comes to buying these things. I usually wait until the next cycle where it drops a little bit in price. And I think my type of buyer is growing massively compared to any time before. So you will see if the demand during COVID was 50% above normal, we're talking 150% above normal on the next bump. So there will not be enough GPUs around for those cycles either. They can't keep up with demand, and the fact that all these other things, because now these, well, okay, can I say normies?
Go for
it. This is Eve players. Eve players are to nerds what nerds are to real people. I can say normies. All these normies that have been using computers during COVID more so than they ever have before, now are getting a taste for these things. So you're going to see an explosion, I think, in the market in general. And now it's becoming so much more normal to actually use these things on a professional level. So we're not going to go back to pre-COVID stuff. A lot of this is a whole new world, even when we start being able to actually hug each other again. And I know even the English are looking forward to that.
You say that like we were not a loving, you know, group.
Oh, you're a loving and warm people at a distance.
Just, you know, just there's a time and a place, right?
Exactly, and you don't hug as much as anyone else on the planet, which is kind of fun. Well, I think it's only the Japanese that have more personal space than the British, if I remember correctly from the studies. They might have changed. My brain is getting old.
Until you get to the underground, in which case, like Japanese underground, like they'll literally cram you in like sardines.
Yeah, that's Japanese forced hugging.
Yeah. Like we like our personal space, but like down here, like, you know, anything
goes. Put some more people in the more people can fit. Just see if the doors can still close. It's fine.
It's about efficiency, you know. the more people we can get in there, the more efficient we can claim it to be.
But anyways, the point is back to the simulation thing, right? The fact that they're building this massive world simulator.
Yeah, it's called Destination Earth, right? Like apparently that's the name of the name of the project that they got going.
And this is just more of the supercomputer and supercomputer utility. What are they used for? They're used for meteorological weather stuff, and they're used for things like traffic and whatever. Supercomputers like this has been a thing for a while. It's just now they're infringing on our GPUs, and gamers of the world unite. Stop this now. Because if we start getting more of these projects that get 20,000, what are we going to do?
Obviously, the title isn't like they're not looking for gamers GPUs to like plug into this like big matrix of of PCI Express boards. Like that's kind of not what they're after. Like they're essentially trying to build a supercomputer with 20,000 GPUs, but like particular. They're trying to do particular GPUs. So the aim at least is that they want to squeeze in around 20,000 graphics chips from like 5,000 Pascal powered NVIDIA Tesla P100 GPUs. So they're kind of quite particular about it.
And fine that you're saying it's not your standard GPUs and all that. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Again, the silica comes from somewhere, and this is also a problem right now. There's a scarcity of these things, and when these chips are made for these projects instead of actual
GPUs that like gamers want to use.
Exactly. Then it's still the same problem. This is called bottlenecks. They exist in real life. I know that some of our Eve players are still crying about the fact that they're being reintroduced into Eve Online. But trust me, it's actually going to be good for Eve. I hate these things in real life. I would like to get rid of them. But in my Eve, I love these bottlenecks.
Yeah, because they're in terms of Eve, they're a situation where you can find a like profit. Right, you can find a way of you can find a way of being able to supplement somebody who wants to throw money at something in order to get a product, right? And that's
and the same with, you mentioned scalping in Eve. I think that's an amazing business model if that's what you're doing. If you're scalping, if you're doing cornering.
I mean, we've seen ridiculous amounts of scalping through in the Eve market in DOTA, like recently, especially with the with the new stuff coming in with the indie changes and stuff. Like it like I showed a little bit of it on the Weekend Report Sunday show, where I was just perusing through the DOTA market and just looking at, like, say the wormhole gases, the P4 or the rarity 4, sorry, like moon materials, the prices of battleships, that kind of thing. Like every single one of them is like, kind of like curve, sort of thing, and then it just like at the end is.
Yeah, and I will just give a little bit of advice to our Eve player base, because they are our audience. When the market moves and when all the lemmings are moving left, always move right.
Yeah.
So go in there right now, because every scalper out there and every cornering has already happened. It happened this weekend, and some of them is crazy. And then for some reason, I think Fraternity had big purchases that they actually needed because they were running out of some ships for their doctrines.
And
so they've also bought out a lot of stuff. So some ships are actually crazy expensive now. So go in there, look for the things that are not high right now. That's where you want to go. Also, because everything starts changing when the labor actually needs to shift. Because right now, labor is not moving. But when labor moves, that's when you're going to be able to bank on moving against the market.
Exactly. And if it's not scalpers, if it's not crypto miners, if it's not the EU trying to source 20,000 GPUs, that's stopping you from being able to get your GPU. You know, it's a tanker ship in the Suez Canal blocking everything from being delivered. Right?
Yeah, it's just one of those stories that just keeps on giving. And it was funny that I'm a little bit of, I'm not a boomer, but I'm enough of an old kid on the internet. So this whole speed of memeing is like blowing my mind. I did not see this piece of news until it was already a meme on Reddit and had already been Eve-ified. That's when I actually saw this. It's like this stuff is just happening way too fast.
It was super fast. Like, but you know, thank God it's actually finally free. You know, there was an article from the BBC saying like the Ever Given finally arrives at Felixstowe. You know, a little late, just a tiny little bit late.
And someone at the time when this came out was linking. There's a world map you can go and check out where you can see all the current shipping of both container and tanker ships.
That blew people's minds. That blew people's minds, right?
Completely. They had no idea that much traffic was actually going on the planet. And you can actually do something very similar with airplanes. Maybe not so much right now.
Yeah.
That's another story. But my argument is this is actually where I want Eve to go. I want this to happen, but we cannot have that with the current protection of massive grief-oriented ganking. It is simply not possible to have the efficiency of shipping in Eve that is needed. This is also why, well, you have one place you can trade, and that's JITA. 90% of all trade is in JITA. 90% of all industry is in JITA. Everything is in JITA because if you can't move safely, you can't have secondary hubs, you can't live anywhere else, or rather you can't shop anywhere else. You can live elsewhere and then go to the city and buy your stuff. But you can't have that service available close by at the current normal in EVE Online. And this is one of the things I strongly suspect that the new eco team is aware of and is trying to fix. This is why many of these things over the past 18 months have been a little bit painful. And I'm not saying the CCP is going to land any of this perfectly. I don't think they will. But they're moving in the right direction. And yes, it hurts. But this is... who was it that said this? Was it Spod? I said, you have to take your medicine. It never tastes good. It's always horrible. But when you've taken your medicine, it's going to get better. And this is because they're planning for the next 10 years.
Exactly. And there was, I don't want to sort of go back to the Ever Given kind of thing, but there was a little kind of comedic kind of thing that happened regarding the Ever Given, which I thought was kind of funny, and it illustrates, you know, humans and, you know, humans' ability to sort of, you know, pattern match almost anything, right? And it's basically this image. And I think the tagline for that image was Ever Given sus. Which, if you understand that, it's a reference to Among Us, a game called Among Us, which you may have heard being very much a sort of a hot game for 2020. And if you're not entirely certain, if you don't recognize like the shape there, like the shape is basically the sort of basically the player, like the player icon for Among Us, as it were. You know, I just love that like, you know, people pick up on that kind of stuff.
And the human brain is just amazing with this. And I was having a little bit of fun earlier today, just throwing meme posts back and forth, and the amount of memes that is already imprinted in our brains, us internet natives, it's crazy. We can basically have a whole conversation just with memes back and forth with no fucking words. Like, I don't know if we are actually destroying our brains. I think we might be a little bit.
Nah, we're not. We're just finding, you know, sort of new ways to short circuit current current languages to make it faster to communicate. I am like the antithesis of that. I probably even pronounced that particular word wrong, but
No, you got it. You got it, Mac. In the end,
okay.
you got it. You corrected yourself back to antithesis. It's fine.
Well, there we go then.
It's just the English language butchers it because it contracts it into faster and shorter than it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's antithesis.
Antithesis. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, enough of my speech impediments to some degree. I think that's pretty much what we have. Like, it's pretty much it for the show, as it were. Like, we kind of wanted to go. We were thinking about a we wanted to do a third topic. We're probably going to punt that to the Friday show. Because we've only got like 4 minutes, and I really don't think that we can cover it in 4 minutes at all.
No, we can't.
Like, it's quite wide ranging, and I think we can have I think it'd be better if we move that to Friday. But we'll be talking about branding players, not literally.
Hey! Don't threaten me with a good time.
Not literally and actually IRL, but like maybe in games kind of thing. And what certain developers like Square Enix kind of does with branding people, as well as things like Rockstar with GTA 5 and how they kind of like put cheaters in servers with other cheaters, that kind of thing. So we'll be talking about that on Friday.
And GTA 4 is 22 or 23 years old now.
That is insane. Like GTA 5 is like 13 years. It's ridiculous.
Is it? Yeah, 13.
GTA 5 is 13, yeah. Like, I mean, it's the GTA 5 and GTA Online, like, it is basically one and the same almost, sort of like when they released it. And that's the current, that's the current Grand Theft Auto that's being played, like, at the moment. It's crazy that it's 13 years old. Anyway, we're sidelining like crazy right here.
That's one of the USPs of the show. Don't worry, guys.
To some degree, yes. But if you wanted if you want to hear some in-game Eve player news and that sort of thing, probably a little bit more sort of in-depth discussion about the industry changes. Matterall is going to have his usual Newsday show on the US sort of time zone. That'll be coming up in, I think, maybe like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. 4 hours, somewhere around about there.
Well, we're in transition of time zone stuff, so you guys just have to pardon us when it comes to anything that's got to do with time. Don't know, check it, keep things open, and you'll catch it.
Yeah, keep an eye. Like, if you're not on the Discord, like, definitely be part of the Discord. That's where all the things happen.
And if you ever get a chance to talk to politicians or people with influence, let's get rid of daylight saving time. Please, for the love of God, can we get rid of this dumb idea?
I'm totally with you there, mate. I'm totally with you there. So yeah, check out, like, keep apprised of the Discord. There's, we always ping out when we're having shows. So, if you're on the Discord, you'll know because you'll get notified on the messages or the announcements channel for sure.
And if you're watching this and you're not already on our TIS Discord, please join us. We have some of the best conversations in there.
Exactly. We regularly talk on the voice channels, and you will regularly see bunches of people in the voice channels on our Discord, like just talking about Eve, or talking about like nothing even related to Eve, like all a whole range of discussions happen there. And obviously, you've seen some of the sort of like random adverts we have. Like, we have ways of pushing adverts. So if you have a group, a corporation in game, like a sort of like a third party thing that you want to promote, like, get in touch with us, because we can put an advert out, like, with our regular regularly scheduled advert breaks, and show, and help you promote that as well. So, get in touch with us in that for any of that as well. So, and obviously, if you're watching the VOD of this, definitely follow the channel on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, then
click all the things.
Click all the things. Click the bell, all of that kind of jazz. Definitely be a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and tell us what you like, what you don't like. What your view and your take on the conversation is in the comments and stuff like that. So that all helps us out. Do you have anything that you want to say, Caleb?
Yeah, and any suggestions of me cutting my hair, not going to happen.
Anyway, that'll about do us for today. And we will see you on Friday for another edition of the EuroShow. Take care,
later,
guys.
chaps.